You were born in the 18th century, during the long shadow of the Qing Dynasty, in a village that did not exist on any map worth reading. It was a scatter of mud walls and patched straw roofs pressed low against the earth, as if even the buildings were trying not to be noticed by heaven. The wind moved freely through cracked doors. The fields stretched outward in thin bands of millet and wheat, but the soil was stubborn and the rain unreliable. Some years it gave, many years it did not. Your father called himself a farmer, though the land often refused that title. He rose before dawn, regardless, hands already hardened before you were born. Your mother walked beyond the fields, near the old burial mounds where wild herbs grew untended. She gathered roots and leaves with quiet reverence, selling them in nearby markets for a handful of copper coins. Sometimes she returned with rice, sometimes only with apologies. Hunger was your first language. You remember the ache of it more clearly than you remember lullabies, the way your stomach folded in on itself, the way your mother would chew rice and press it gently into your mouth when you were too weak to sit upright. You remember winters that felt endless, where frost crept across the inside of the walls and your breath lingered in the air like smoke from a dying fire. You remember your baby sister, wrapped in cloth too thin for the cold. You remember waking to stillness. The silence afterward was heavier than grief. It was the silence of calculation. There were too many mouths, not enough grain. You were 4, maybe 5, old enough to watch your father's face change when a stranger arrived. A man with clean boots and patient eyes, a man who did not look hungry. You do not remember the words spoken, only the sound of coins being counted, only the way your mother's gaze stayed fixed on the floor, as if she were afraid that if she looked at you, she would not survive the looking. You were lifted into a wooden cart before you understood you were leaving. You screamed at first. It felt natural to scream, but the road was long and no one turned around. The man did not scold you. He simply waited. Eventually, your voice broke. Eventually, you learned what silence could buy you. There were other children in the cart. Some stared blankly. Some cried until exhaustion claimed them. Some did not cry at all. You did not ask their names. Names were already becoming fragile things. The journey north felt endless. Dust clung to your skin. Nights were colder away from home. You did not know where you were going. You only knew you were not going back. When you first saw Beijing, it did not look like salvation. It looked like walls. The city loomed in gray stone and red beams, lanterns glowing like watchful eyes. Crowds moved in currents you could not understand. The air smelled of smoke, sweat, incense, and something sweet you could not name. You were taken through streets that narrowed as they twisted inward, away from markets and toward quieter corridors. Houses with red lanterns hung outside their doors, windows barred, curtains thick. Inside, you were washed. You were fed. You were examined as one might examine porcelain before purchase. Your hair was combed, your nails cleaned, dirt erased as if it had never belonged to you. They gave you a new name, soft, ornamental, something floral, something meant to bloom on command. Childhood ended not with a moment, but with a schedule. You learned to sit straighter, to walk without dragging your feet, to lower your eyes at the correct angle. You learned which tones pleased and which disappointed. Praise came in warm water, better meals, gentler instructions. Correction came sharp and immediate. You discovered that discipline could be taught into the body. Years passed in measured steps, movements repeated until they felt less like choices and more like instincts. You were not asked what you preferred, you were shown what was required. The invested in refinement, posture, voice,
presentation. You became careful with your expressions, smiles when expected, silence when appropriate. You learned that the less you resisted, the less unpredictable the world became. Adolescence arrived quietly. You did not mark birthdays, no one did. Time was tracked by growth and usefulness. You grew taller, your features sharpened. Mirrors were placed before you more often. Clients came and went like changing weather. Some looked at you as though you were art, some as though you were property. You learned to read faces before they spoke. Money